Ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary, welcome Becci reads Seuss.
So today we're going to be reading some Seuss, of course, because everybody loves Seuss. And today we're going to be reading On Beyond Zebra. On Beyond Zebra. Said Conrad Cornelius O'Donnell Odell, my very young friend who is learning to spell. The A is for ape and the B is for bear. The C is for camel, the H is for hare. The M is for mouse and the R is for rat, and I know all 26 letters like that. Through to Z is for zebra, I know them all well, said Conrad Cornelius O'Donnell Odell. And so now I know everything anyone knows from beginning to end, from the start to the close, because Z is as far as the alphabet goes. Then he almost fell flat on his face on the floor when I picked up the chalk and I drew one letter more, a letter he had never dreamed of before, and I said, "You can stop if you want with the Z, because most people stop with the Z, but not me. In the places I go, there are things that I see that I never could spell if I stopped with the Z. I'm telling you this because you're one of my friends. My alphabet starts where your alphabet ends. My alphabet starts with a letter called Yuz. It's the letter I use to spell Yuzamatuz. You'll be sort of surprised what there is to be found once you go beyond Z and start poking around. So on beyond zebra, explore like Columbus, discover new letters like Wum is for Wumbus, my high-spouting whale who lives high on a hill and who never comes down till it's time to refill. So on beyond Z, it's high time you were shown that you really don't know all there is to be known. Then just step a step further past Wum is for Wumbus, and there you'll find and is for Umbus. A sort of a cow with one head and one tail. To milk this great cow, you'll need more than one pail. She has 98 faucets that give milk quite nicely. Perhaps 99, I forget just precisely. And boy, is she something most people don't see, because most people stop at the Z, but not me. I ramble, I scramble through swamp and through swamp, where the letters get better, like letters like humph. There's a real handy letter. What's handy about it? Well, you just can't spell humph a dumper without it. If you stay home with zebra, you're stuck in a rut, but on beyond zebra, you're anything but. Why, I know a little fancy letter called fuddle. I use it in spelling Miss Fuddle-dee-Duddle. And oh, what a bird of a bird of a bird of. Her tail is the longest that's ever been heard of. So long and so fancy she'd be in a fix. If she didn't have helpers, it takes about 6 to tag along hoisting Miss Fuddle-dee-Duddle's wonderful tail out of the muddle-dee-puddles. And Glick is for Glicker, who lives in the wild weeds and spends his time juggling fresh cinnamon seeds, which he usually able to find in great number, excepting, of course, in the month of September, when cinnamon seeds aren't around in great number, so that month he juggles with seeds of cucumber. And nut is the letter I use to spell nutches, who live in the small caves known as niches for hutches. These nutches have troubles, the biggest of which is the fact that there are many more nutches than niches. Each nutch in a niche knows that some other nutch would like to move into his niche very much. So each nutch in a niche has to watch the small niche, or nutches who haven't got niches will snitch. Then we go on to snee, and the snee is for sneedle, a terrible kind of ferocious mosquito, whose humdinger stinger is sharp as a needle. The sneedle's too tough to be killed with a smack, so he has to be hunted on elephant back. And your eyes in the elephants have to be keen, and you have to aim fast, and you have to hit clean. And the bullet you shoot is a stale navy bean that you'll dunk for 3 weeks in sour kerosene, which is awfully hard work, so it's easy to see why most people stop at the Z, but not me. When you go beyond zebra, who knows? There's no telling what wonderful things you might find yourself spelling. Like Quan is for quandary, who lives on a shelf in a hole in the ocean alone by himself. And he worries each day from dawn's early light. And he worries, just worries, far into the night. He just stands there and worries. He simply can't stop. In his top-sided, his bottom, on bottom side top. And Thnad is for Thnadners, and oh, are they sad-o. The big one you see has the smaller one shadow. The shadow the smaller Thnadder has should be his. I don't understand it, but that's how it is. A terrible mix-up in shadows, gee whiz. And spaz is a letter I use to spell spasm, a beast who belongs to the nasm of basm. Handy for traveling, that's why he is more easy to pack than a suitcase or grip. Those horns carrying all that he needs on a trip, and a thread and a needle for mending his socks, his toothbrush, a cup, and 2 three-handed clocks, and his velvet umbrella, his vegetable chopper, and also his gold-plated popping corn popper, and a grasshopper cage for his favorite grasshopper. And floob is for floob boober bab boober bubs, who once in the water like blubbery tubs. They're no good to eat. You can't cook them like steaks, but they're handy in crossing small oceans and lakes. And zat is the letter I use to spell zatit, whose nose is so high that nobody pats it. And patting his lonely old nose is the least that a fellow could do for this fine friendly beast. So to get there and do it, I built an invention, the 3-seater Zazit nose patting extension. If you try to drive one, you'll certainly see why most people stop at the Z, but not me. And jog is my letter for spelling jagoons who doodle around in the far desert dunes. Just doodle around, crooning very sad tunes about peppermint, peanuts, and pebbles and prunes, and paint pots and polka dots, pinheads and pigs, and their grandmother's grandfather's stepsister's wig. So you see, there's no end to the things you might know, depending on how far beyond zebra you go. I have a letter called Flun, and the Flun is for Flunnel, a softish nice fellow who hides in a tunnel. He only comes out of his hole, I'm afraid, when the right kind of softish nice music is played, on a kind of hunting horde called the Old Grunth. And to learn how to play it, it takes month after month of practicing isn't much funneth. And besides, it's quite heavy, weighs almost a tonth. That's why few people bother to play the Old Grunth, so Funnel's been out of his tunnel just once. And way past Z is a letter called itch. And the itch is for itchapod animals which race around back and forth and back through the air on a very high sidewalk between here and there. They're afraid to stay there. They're afraid to stay here. They think there is too far. They think here is too near. And since here is too near and out there is too far, they are too scared to roost wherever soever they are. There's a letter called Yek, and the Yek is for Yekko, who howls in an underground grotto in Gecko. These Yekkos love echoes, and this is their motto. For best Yekko echoes, try Gecko for our grotto. Oh, the things you can find if you don't stay behind. On a world near the sun lives 2 brothers called Vrooms, who strangely enough are built sort of like brooms. And they're stuck all alone up high there in the blue. And so to kill time, just for something to do, each one of these fellows takes turns with the other in sweeping the dust off his world with his brother. And high is the letter for high gargle orum. For getting me places real fast, I'm all for 'em. They puffle along and their brakes never squeak, and they run every hour, every day of the week, from the town of North Nub to the town of East Unce, each making stops at West Bunglefield, Upster, and Jounce, and Ipswich and Nipswich, and also South Bounce, and another small town that's too hard to pronounce. The places I took him, I tried hard to tell young Conrad Cornelius O'Donnell Odell a few brand new wonderful words he might spell. I led him around, I tried hard to show there are things beyond Z that most people don't know. I took him past zebra as far as I could, and I think perhaps maybe I did him some good. Because finally he said, "This is really great stuff, and I guess the old alphabet isn't enough." Now the letters he uses are something to see. Most people stop at the Z, but not he. Thank you. So up next, we are going to do If I Ran a Circus. In all the whole town, the most wonderful spot is behind Sneelock's store in a big vacant lot. It's just the right spot for my wonderful plans, said a young Morgus McGurk, if I clean up the cans. Now, a fellow like me, said young Morgus McGurk, could get rid of this junk with a half-hour's work. I could yank up those weeds and chop down the dead tree and haul off all those old cars. There are just 2 or 3, and then the whole place would be ready, you see. All ready to put up the tents for my circus, I think I will call it the Circus McGurkus. The Circus McGurkus, the world's greatest show on the face of the earth or wherever you go. The Circus McGurkus, the cream of the cream. The Circus McGurkus, the circus supreme. The Circus McGurkus, the colossal, stupendous, astounding, fantastic, terrific, tremendous. I'll bring in my acrobats, jugglers, and clowns from 1,033 faraway towns to the place that you'll see 'em in, ladies and gents, right behind Sneelock's snore in the great McGurk tent. And I don't suppose old Mr. Sneelock will mind when he suddenly has a big circus behind. After all, Mr. Sneelock is one of my friends. He might even help out doing small odds and ends. Doing little odd jobs, he could be of some aid, just such as selling balloons and pink lemonade. I think 500 gallons will be about right, and then I'll be ready for opening night. What an opening night, what a night, what a sight. I'll hoist up the curtains, the crowds will crowd in, and my Circus McGurkus will promptly begin. With a welcoming toot on my welcoming horn, and my horn-tooting apes from the jungles of Jorn, where the very best horn-tooting apes are all born. 'Cause the very fresh air there is fine for their lungs, and some of those fellows have 2 or 3 tongues. This way, step right in. This way, ladies and gents. My sideshow starts here in the first of my tents. When you see what goes on, you'll see no other circus is half the great circus that Circus McGurkus is. Here on stage 1, from the ocean of Ulf, is a sight most amazing. A walrus named Rolf, who can stand on 1 whisker, this wonderful Rolf, on the top of 5 balls, 2 for tennis, 3 for golf. It's a marvelous trick, if I say so myself. And on stage number 2, here is something quite new. From a country called From comes this Trum-Dum-Dee Snum, who can drum any tune and that you might care to hum. Doesn't hurt him a bit, because his trummy tummy's numb. And you'll now meet the Foon, the remarkable Foon, who eats sizzling hot pebbles that fall off the moon. And the reason he likes them red hot, it appears, is he greatly enjoys blowing smoke from his ears. Of course, pebbles like this are quite hard to collect, but Sneelock will manage somehow, I expect. After all, Sneelock is one of my friends, and I'm sure he'll help out doing small odds and ends. And on stage number 4, see the Willy Walloo, who can throw his long tail as a sort of lasso. With a flip of the hip, with a tail of his kind, he can capture whoever is standing behind. He can capture old Sneelock, I'm sure he won't mind. And now here's a hoodwink who winks in his wink hood. Without a good wink hood, a hoodwink can't wink good. And folks, let me tell you, there's only one circus with a wink-hooded hoodwinks, the Circus McGurkus. The show of all shows, there's no other showman who shows you a show with a blindfolded bowman. The blindfolded bowman from Bigger Baruch, the world's sharpest sharpshooter. Look at him shoot. Through the holes in 4 donuts, 2 hairs on a worm, and the knees of 3 birds without making them squirm. And then on through a crab apple up on the head of Sneelock, who likes to help out, as I've said. And now come to the spot where the spotlight is hot, and you'll see in the spotlight a juggling jot, who can juggle some stuff you think he could not, such as 22 question marks, which is an awful lot, and 44 commas, and also 1 dot. That's the kind of Circus McGurkus I've got. But that's just my sideshow, a start, a beginning. This way to the big tent, you'll find your head spinning. Why, ladies and gentlemen, youngsters and oldsters, your head will likely spin right off your shoulder. So hurry, step lively, quick ladies and gents, and get into your seats in my tent of all tents. My parade of parades is about to commence. You'll see Drum Major Sneelock fling-flang his baton, and my oranga McGurkus come on, with its hot steaming pipes of a gold brass-plated tin, snorting all sorts of snorts in a bumbling din. And this super stupendous, stupendous, stu-roarous, and when I play Dixie, please join in the chorus. Then a fluff-muddled truffle will hide on a huffle, and next in line a fine flummox will shuffle. The flummox will carry a lurch in a pail, and a fibble will carry the flunks's tail. While on top of the flummox, 3 harp-twanging snarp will twang mighty twangs on their 3-snarper harp, while a bolster blows bloops on a 3-nozzle blueser, a noster blows floops on a 1-nozzled noozer, and then comes a lion whose partly a trout. Then more stuff for about 45 minutes about. And then, behind them, while everyone stares, come my to and fro marchers who march in 5 layers. The fros march on 2s and the 2s march on fros. Don't know how they do it, but that's how it goes. And now comes an act of enormous enormance. No former performance performed this performance. This stunt is too grippingly, slippingly frightening. Down from the top of my tent like grease lightning, through pots full of lots of big stickle bush trees, slides a man, what a man, on his roller skate skis. And he'll steer without fear, and you'll know at a glance that it's Sneelock, the man who takes chance after chance, and he won't even rip a small hole in his pants. And now, here, in this cage, is a beast most ferocious, who's known far and wide as the spotted atrocious, who growls, howls, and yowls the most blood-curdling sounds, and each tooth in his mouth weighs at least 60 pounds. And he chews up and eats with the greatest of ease things like carpets and sidewalks and people and trees. But the great Colonel Sneelock is just the right kind of a man who can tame him. I'm sure he won't mind. Then I'll let Sneelock off for a few minutes rest, while high over your heads you will see the best of the world's finest, fanciest, breezing, trapezing, my Zoom-a-Zoop troupe with the West Upper Bendizing, who never quite know while they zoop and they zoom, whether which will catch one or who will catch whom, or if you will catch which by what and just where, or just when and just how and which part of the air. What a circus. My circus McGurkus. My workers love work, they say. Work us, please work us. We'll work and we'll work up so many surprises. You'll never see half if you had 40 eyes. And now, again, Sneelock. Brave Sneelock is back, risking his life on my patented life-risking track, while the speedsters I call my colliding collisions race round in swift cars called abrasion collisions. And Sneelock just lies there, not one bit excited. I know he won't mind. He'll be simply delighted. And here in a contest of brute strength and muscle, Kid Sneelock, my champ of all champs, will now tussle and wrestle a beast called the Grizzly Ghastly, and slap him around, then he'll slam him down fastly, and pin both his shoulders tight flat to the mat. Kid Sneelock will love it, I'm sure about that. And while that goes on there, look at this go on here. Have you heard of my herd of through horns jumping deers? Every deer jumps through horns of another pell-mell, while his horns are jumped through at the same time as well, by a deer whose horns are being jumped through, but by another who's having his horns jumped through too, which I'm sure Trainer Sneelock can train them to do. Then the whole tent will ring with hoorays and wild shouts. Then I wheel in my whales and they turn on their spouts. First, my whale number 1, with an aim that aims true, spouts a spout that spouts Sneelock to whale number 2. And then whale number 2 spouts his spout like a gun. And that spout spouts old Sneelock right back to whale 1. And then forwards and backwards on spout after spout, my great spout rider Sneelock gets spouted about, just as long as the water they're spouting holds out. Then my tournament of knights, noble apes without fear, Sir Hector, Sir Vector, Sir Bops, and Sir Beers, Sir Hawkins, Sir Dawkins, Sir Jocks, and Sir Jeers, clatter into the tent while everyone cheers, stage a roustabout joust with their boxing glove spears. And while all this wild ruckusing goes on below at the top of the tent, look, the star of my show, great daredevil Sneelock, the world's bravest type. He comes pulled through the air by 3 Soubran snipe on a dingus contraption attached to his pipe. And while people below are all turning chalk white and all biting their fingernails off in their fright, great Sneelock soars up to a terrible height. Then he shakes himself loose, and he starts down in a dive, such as no man on earth could come out of alive. And he smiles as he falls, and no fear does he feel. His nerves are like iron, his muscles like steel. And he plunges down, down, with his hair still combed neat, 4,692 feet. Then he'll land in a fishbowl. He'll manage just fine. Don't ask how he'll manage, that's his job, not mine. Why, he'll be a hero. Of course he won't mind when he finds that he has a big circus behind. And since we have enough time, I'm going to do another short one if that's all right with everybody. Oh, good. I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. So this one will be how Officer Pat saved the whole town. The job of an officer of the police is watching for trouble and keeping the peace. He has to be sharp and he has to be smart. Try to stop trouble before it can start. And that's why one morning while out on his beat on the corner of Chestnut and Mulberry Street, he got sort of worried, did Officer Pat, when his very keen eyes spied a very small gnat going buzz around the head of old Thomas the cat. Aha, murmured Pat, I see trouble in that. If that gnat bites the cat, and he might very well, the cat will wake up and he'll let out a yell. That's only small trouble, I know it, but brother, one small bit of trouble will lead to another. The trouble with trouble is trouble will spread. The yowl of that cat will wake Tom, Tim, and Ted, those terrible triplets of Mrs. McGowan. They'll yell a yell that will wake this whole town. When trouble gets started, it always starts more. Those kids with their racket and ruckus and war will frighten the birds, and the birds will come flapping down Mulberry Street with a yipping and yapping. Once trouble gets going, it spreads just like fire. Those birds will come screaming toward Mr. McGuire, the fish market man, and he'll get such a scare, he'll toss that big codfish up high in the air. That's the trouble with trouble. It grows and it grows. That fish in the air will land smack on the nose of that horse over there that belongs to Bill Hart. The horse will start kicking Hart's wagon apart, and pumpkins will bounce on the head of Jack Warner, who fixed that hydrant down there on the corner. And once all those pumpkins start falling on Jake, he'll fall on his wrench and the hydrant will break. There's no stopping trouble once trouble gets going. When hydrant gets broken, the water starts flowing. Oh. The water will gush right onto Mrs. Manella. She'll think that it's rain, put up her umbrella, and that'll knock young Bobby Burke off his bike, and he'll fall on the ladder of House Painter Mike. And House Painter Mike, when he tumbles, will spill a bucket of paint on the head of Don Dill. Oh, once it gets started, there's no stopping trouble. That splashing of paint will upset Mrs. Hubble. She'll drop all her dishes, they'll smash on the ground, and startle her dog, and the poor frightened hound will jump into the horn of old horn tutor Fritz. And Fritz will fall backwards and scare driver Schmidt on his dynamite truck, almost out of his wits. And that dynamite truck with its big load of blitz will race towards the tree. And oh boy, when it hits, the whole of this town will be blown to small bits. But lucky for us, down on Mulberry Street, good Officer Pat was awake on his beat. And quick the brave officer swung his big bat on the troublesome head of that troublesome gnat, and kept him from biting old Thomas the cat, and stopped all the trouble before it began. He saved the whole town. What a very smart man. Thank you, everybody. That was a lot of fun.
Let's keep it going for Becky.